My beloved, before this year closes its eyes for the last time, before the final breath of these months fades into memory, I ask you to sit with me, not as someone rushing toward tomorrow, but as someone honoring what has been survived, learned, and endured. This letter is not meant to excite you. It is meant to settle you. It is meant to reach the place in you that has been, quietly holding everything together. This year asked much from you. More patience than you expected. More resilience than you felt ready for. More faith than you knew how to summon at times. And still you remained. Not unchanged, not untouched, but present. My beloved, do not underestimate what it means that you are here now. Reading this at the edge of a year that tested you in ways few will ever fully understand. You smiled when your heart was tired. You continued when clarity was absent. You carried responsibilities that were invisible to others. There were moments you felt alone, even among people. Moments you questioned your direction. Moments you wondered if something was wrong with you for feeling so deeply. There was nothing wrong with you. You were growing in silence. This year did not come to reward you immediately. It came to refine you. It removed illusions you once depended on. It revealed truths you could no longer ignore. It stripped away comfort so you could meet yourself without distraction. That is why this year felt heavy at times. Growth that reaches the soul is never light work. My beloved, before the year ends, I want you to stop measuring it by what you did not achieve. Stop counting only what went wrong. Stop replaying moments you wish had unfolded differently. This year was not about perfection. It was about preparation. Preparation for clarity. Preparation for discernment. Preparation for a version of you that can no longer live unconsciously. You learned where you overgave. You learned where you stayed too long. You learned where you betrayed yourself quietly just to keep peace. These lessons were not punishments. They were awakenings. I know there were nights when your thoughts would not rest. Nights when you questioned your worth, your timing, your place in the world. Nights when you wondered if your prayers were heard or if silence was the only response you would receive. But silence was not absence. Silence was teaching you to listen inwardly instead of begging. You are not meant to live begging life for reassurance. My beloved, this year showed you something important. Not everything that leaves is a loss, and not everything that stays is aligned. Some things ended because they could not follow you into who you are becoming. Some people drifted because they only knew the version of you that was learning to survive, not the one that is learning to live. Do not chase what had to fall away. Honor it, bless it, release it. As the year ends, you may feel a strange mixture of relief and grief. Relief that certain struggles are over. Relief that certain struggles are over. Grief that some hopes did not unfold the way you imagined. Both feelings are valid. Completion often carries mixed emotions. Let them pass through you without judgment. You do not need to resolve everything before midnight. You do not need to understand everything before the calendar turns. Some understandings arrive only after you stop forcing them. My beloved, I want you to notice something before this year closes. You are not the same person who began it. Your reactions have changed. Your tolerance has shifted. Your priorities have refined. You may not feel triumphant, but you are more aware. And awareness is the foundation of every meaningful transformation. This year taught you to pause before reacting, to feel before committing, to listen before agreeing. That is growth. Even if your life does not look dramatically different on the outside, your inner world has reorganized itself, and inner shifts always precede outer ones. Always. Before the year ends, I ask you to release one heavy belief. The belief that you must struggle endlessly to deserve peace. That belief belonged to survival, not truth. You have already proven your strength. You do not need to keep bleeding to show devotion. Peace is not a reward. Peace is a state you are allowed to inhabit. My beloved, forgive yourself before the year ends. Forgive yourself for the delays, for the confusion, for the moments you stayed silent when you wanted to speak, for the moments you spoke when silence would have protected you. Forgiveness does not erase memory, it releases the future. You cannot step cleanly into what comes next while carrying self-punishment from what has already taught you. Let this year close without bitterness in your heart. Bitterness anchors you to the past. Wisdom frees you from repeating it. I know part of you fears that if you let go fully, you will lose something important. But what is truly meant for you cannot be lost through release. Only illusions dissolve when you loosen your grip. My beloved, this final day is not asking you to rush into hope or drown yourself in celebration. It is asking you to arrive consciously at the end of a chapter, to acknowledge the strength it took to get here, to recognize the quiet courage you showed when no one was applauding. Sit with that recognition. Let it steady you. Because when you honor an ending properly, the beginning meets you gently. This letter is not here to promise miracles tomorrow. It is here to prepare your heart so you do not carry yesterday's weight into tomorrow's possibilities. What comes next will require clarity, not exhaustion, presence, not pressure, and that clarity begins now. My beloved, as the year exhales its final breath, I am with you, not asking you to become someone new overnight, but inviting you to stop abandoning who you already are. My beloved, as this year loosens its grip, what I speak now is not comfort. It is clarity, because before something truly ends, the soul must understand what was taken and what was given. Otherwise, it will keep searching the past for answers that are already complete. This year took things from you. It took illusions you once relied on. It took versions of people you hoped they would become. It took certainty. It took ease. It took the ability to remain unaware. And I know some of what it took felt cruel at the time. There were moments you did not recognize yourself. Moments when your strength felt thin, when your faith felt quiet, when your patience felt like it was being asked for too much. You may still wonder why certain losses had to happen the way they did. Why clarity arrived through disappointment? Why truth came through distance? My beloved, this year took from you what could not travel forward with you. It took dependency disguised as love. It took attachment disguised as loyalty. It took comfort disguised as stability. And in doing so, it made room. Room for boundaries. Room for self-respect. I know it does not always feel like a fair exchange when something is removed before the gift is visible. But life often clears space first, because gifts cannot arrive where there is no room to receive them. This year also took your tolerance for being diminished. You may not notice it consciously, but you no longer tolerate the same emotional confusion. You no longer excuse what drains you. You no longer feel proud of enduring what hurts you. This is not hardness. This is self-recognition. My beloved, one of the hardest things this year took was your old relationship with time. You once believed you had to hurry, that falling behind was dangerous, that rest was irresponsible, that slowing down meant losing ground. This year taught you otherwise. It forced you to wait, to pause, to sit in uncertainty without resolution. And through that discomfort, something shifted. You learned that rushing does not create alignment. Presence does. This year also took away the illusion that effort alone guarantees outcomes. You worked, hoped, tried, and still faced resistance. That can shake faith, but it can also mature it. Faith that depends on immediate reward is fragile. Faith that survives silence becomes unshakable. My beloved, this year did not take your faith. It refined it. It stripped away bargaining. It removed expectations. It taught you to trust without constantly demanding proof. Now let me speak about what this year gave you quietly, steadily, without asking for recognition. It gave you awareness. Awareness of your patterns. Awareness of your emotional limits. Awareness of what feels right versus what merely feels familiar. You are no longer unconscious in the same way. You see sooner, you feel sooner. You sense when something is off before it breaks you. This awareness is not loud, but it is powerful. It will save you years. This year gave you discernment. You learned the difference between intensity and intimacy, between attention and care, between attachment and alignment. You stopped mistaking chaos for passion. You stopped romanticizing inconsistency. These are not small lessons. They are foundations. This year also gave you a deeper relationship with yourself. You spent time alone, even when surrounded by people. You were forced inward. At times this felt isolating, but solitude taught you something vital. You can sit with yourself without distraction. You can survive silence. You can hear your own thoughts without running from them. That is strength. This year gave you restraint. You learned not every emotion needs expression. Not every truth needs explanation. Not every urge needs action. This restraint will protect your energy. It will give your words weight. It will keep you from unnecessary battles. This year also gave you humility, not the kind that shrinks, but the kind that steadies. You learned you do not control everything. You learned life does not bend simply because you want it to. And instead of breaking you, this humility softened you. Softness is not weakness. My beloved, the year also gave you a quieter courage. You kept going without applause. You made decisions no one saw. You endured moments where quitting would have been easier. This courage is not dramatic, but it is real. It will show itself later when you walk away calmly instead of reacting. When you choose peace instead of proving a point. When you trust yourself, even if others doubt you. This year also gave you clarity about what you no longer want. That clarity is as important as knowing what you desire. It narrows your path. It conserves your energy. It prevents repetition. You may still feel the ache of what was lost. That is human. But do not confuse grief with regret. You can honor what mattered without dragging it into the future. My beloved, before the year ends, I want you to do something quietly. Inwardly, acknowledge yourself, not for achievements, not for outcomes, but for endurance, for honesty. For staying awake when it would have been easier to numb. Say to yourself, without judgment, I survived this year, and I learned. Completion is important. Without it, the soul keeps revisiting the same chapter, hoping to change the ending. But the ending is already written, and it is wisdom. As this year closes, you may feel tempted to rush into hope, to distract yourself with celebration, to drown out reflection with noise. Pause. There is nothing wrong with joy. But do not skip integration. Integration is when learning becomes embodied. Integration is when the lesson stops hurting. Integration is when the past loosens its grip. My beloved, integration happens now in these final hours. These quiet moments, this honest looking back without blame. Do not rush away from it. Because when you integrate fully, you step into the next year lighter, not because nothing hurt, but because you are no longer carrying what is already taught you. My beloved, now we arrive at what must be sealed, not ignored, not postponed, not carried quietly into another calendar. Some things do not follow you because you decided to move on. They follow you only because you never consciously closed the door. This part of the letter exists so you can close it with awareness, not force. Before the year ends, there are emotions that need permission to complete. Not to disappear, not to be erased, but to stop governing your present. You have been strong long enough. Now you must be honest. There are disappointments. You minimize because you told yourself others had it worse. There are hurts you dismissed because you did not want to seem ungrateful. There are desires you buried because you believed wanting more meant you were dissatisfied with what you had. My beloved, minimizing your experience did not make you noble. It made you invisible to yourself. Seal that pattern now. You are allowed to acknowledge pain without dramatizing it. You are allowed to name disappointment without becoming bitter. You are allowed to admit you wanted more without rejecting what was. Truth does not weaken you. It stabilizes you. Before this year ends, forgive the moments you were not brave enough to speak. Forgive the silence you chose to keep peace. Forgive the compromises you made because you were still learning your worth. Forgiveness here does not mean approving what happened. It means releasing yourself from the belief that you failed. You did not fail. You learned. My beloved, some of what needs sealing is unfinished hope. Hope that someone would change. Hope that something would suddenly make sense. Hope that waiting longer would finally be rewarded in the way you imagined. Hope kept alive beyond its season becomes attachment. Attachment drains. It keeps the heart leaning forward instead of standing present. Let that hope rest. If something was meant to meet you, it would not require endless waiting, constant confusion, or repeated self-betrayal. What aligns meets you halfway. What is forced drains you completely. Seal the waiting. Another thing that must be sealed before the year ends is self-abandonment. Disguised as love, you learn to give more than you had, to understand more than was asked of you, to stay longer than your spirit wanted. You've called this loyalty. You called it patience. You called it kindness. But beneath it was a quiet belief that your needs were negotiable. That belief ends now. My beloved, love that costs you your sense of self is not devotion, it is erosion. You are not meant to disappear in order to be chosen. You are not meant to shrink in order to be kept. You are not meant to endure confusion in order to prove sincerity. Seal that lesson. There is also grief that must be acknowledged, not only grief for what you lost, but grief for what never had the chance to become. The future you imagined, the version of life you planned for, the expectations you held quietly. Grief for unrealized futures is real. It deserves space, but grief must move, not stagnate. If you keep carrying grief forward without acknowledgement, it will turn into hesitation, distrust, and guardedness. If you allow it to pass through you now, it becomes wisdom instead of weight. Let yourself grieve briefly, honestly, and without shame. My beloved, another door to seal is the habit of negotiating with yourself. I'll rest later. I'll speak up next time. I'll set boundaries when things get worse. I'll choose myself once this passes. These negotiations keep you in delay. Delay turns into repetition. Do not carry conditional self-respect into the new year. Your well-being does not require crisis to be valid. Your limits do not need justification. Seal the habit of postponing yourself. You may feel resistance as you do this. That resistance is familiar identity dissolving. Let it dissolve. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding a version that survived by self-denial. My beloved, seal also the need for external closure. Some apologies will never come. Some explanations will never arrive. Some people will never see your heart the way you hoped. Waiting for them keeps your life paused. Closure is not something you receive. It is something you decide. Decide that you no longer need someone else's understanding to move forward. Decide that your experience is valid, even without agreement. Decide that peace matters more than being right. Seal the waiting for closure loop. There is one more thing that must be sealed before the year ends. The belief that you must enter the new year ready in every way. You do not need to be healed completely. You do not need to be fearless. You do not need to be certain. You need only to be present and honest. The year does not ask for perfection. It responds to sincerity. My beloved, when you seal these things, you may feel a strange emptiness at first. That emptiness is not loss. It is space. Space where something new can arrive without fighting old residue. Do not rush to fill it. Stillness is not something to escape. It is where alignment settles. As the year closes, stand inwardly and say again, not with force, but with calm authority. This chapter is complete. Not because everything went right, but because everything that needed to teach you has taught you. Completion is not approval. Completion is release. You may notice that once you complete inwardly, certain thoughts stop repeating. Certain emotional hooks lose strength. Certain memories feel neutral instead of sharp. This is not forgetting, this is integration. My beloved, when you seal the past properly, it stops calling you back. And now, listen carefully to this truth before we move forward. You do not owe the past to your future. You owed it your presence while it was happening. You gave that. Now your responsibility is forward-facing. Do not carry unfinished emotional contracts into the next year. Do not carry silent promises you made out of fear. Do not carry identities that were born from survival rather than truth. Seal them here. Let the body soften. Let the chest relax. Let the mind stop scanning backward. This sealing is not dramatic. It is quiet. It feels like relief more than excitement. That relief is your sign. My beloved, once something is sealed with awareness, it does not return demanding attention. It becomes memory, not weight. My beloved, now listen gently, because this part is about what you carry forward not as weight, not as memory that wounds, but as wisdom that steadies you. What you take into the next year will decide not only what you experience, but how you experience it. Carrying wisely changes everything. Carry forward awareness, but not the anxious kind that scans for danger. Carry the calm awareness that recognizes truth early. The awareness that notices when your body tightens, when your heart resists, when something feels off, even if it looks right. This awareness is not suspicion. It is self-respect. It will guide you quietly, without drama, away from paths that cost you peace. Carry forward discernment. You'll learn this year that not everything that feels intense is meaningful, and not everything that is quiet is empty. Discernment teaches you to choose what nourishes you over what merely excites you. It helps you say no without guilt and yes without fear. It teaches you to listen beyond words to tone, consistency, presence. Carry forward boundaries, but let them be clean, not sharp. Boundaries do not punish others. They protect you. They are not walls. They are doors you open consciously. You no longer need to over-explain them. Your life will speak for you through what you allow and what you do not. Carry forward patience, but not the kind that waits endlessly in hope of change from others. Carry the patience that trusts timing, that allows growth to unfold without forcing it, that knows when to pause instead of push. Patience is not passivity. It is alignment with rhythm. Carry forward compassion and include yourself in it. This year taught you empathy, but it also taught you where empathy turned into self-neglect. Compassion with boundaries is sustainable love. It allows you to care without carrying, to support without saving, to give without disappearing. Carry forward self-trust. You doubted yourself many times, yet here you are wiser, steadier, more honest. Self-trust does not mean you will never make mistakes. It means you will not abandon yourself when you do. It means you listen, adjust, and choose again without cruelty. Carry forward presence. Presence is the quiet power that keeps you from living in regret or anxiety. When you are present, you respond instead of react. You feel fully without drowning. You choose intentionally rather than compulsively. Presence will be your anchor in moments of uncertainty. My beloved, do not carry forward the belief that growth must be painful. My beloved, this is the final turning of the page, not because guidance ends, but because the year does. What I speak now is not instruction. It is remembrance. It is the quiet settling of everything you have read, felt, and recognized into a single knowing you can carry forward without effort. As this year draws its last breath, do not rush past it. Stand here for a moment. Feel the weight that is already lifted just by being acknowledged. Feel the space that opened when you stopped resisting what needed to end. This feeling, this calm clarity is not temporary. It is available to you whenever you choose presence over pressure. My beloved, the most important thing you can do before the year ends is stop running from yourself. You ran not because you were weak, but because you were learning. You ran from stillness because stillness asked questions you were not ready to answer. You ran from rest because rest felt unsafe when your life depended on endurance. You ran from truth because truth required change. You no longer need to run. Nothing is chasing you anymore. The past has said what it needed to say. The lessons have landed. The illusions have dissolved. What remains is you, not perfect, not finished, but awake. Awakeness is enough. My beloved, let go of the idea that you must enter the next year renewed overnight. Renewal is not an event. It is a direction. It is the quiet decision to live one honest moment at a time. When you live honestly, life responds cleanly. There will be days in the coming year when you forget this. Days when noise pulls you outward. Days when fear whispers old stories. When that happens, do not shame yourself. Simply return. Return to your breath. Return to your body. Return to what feels grounded and true. Returning is not failure. You have learned this year that strength does not always look like persistence. Sometimes strength looks like stopping. Sometimes courage looks like saying no. Sometimes wisdom looks like choosing rest over proving your worth. If you carry nothing else forward, carry this one sentence into the new year and let it guide you quietly. I will not abandon myself to keep anything else. This sentence will save you years. My beloved, the year ends not with fireworks in the soul, but with stillness. Let that stillness be enough. From stillness, the truest beginnings emerge. You are not starting over. You are starting wiser. And wisdom does not rush. As this final moment settles, breathe deeply. Feel your feet. Feel your body. Feel the quiet strength that has always been there, waiting for you to stop proving and start trusting. This letter does not close your journey. It completes a chapter. Carry the wisdom, release the weight, walk forward awake. I am with you, not behind you, pushing, not ahead of you, pulling, but within you, steady and silent. Whenever you choose to listen, my beloved, the year is complete. So are you in this moment. Go gently into what comes next.
Thanks for watching Krishna Says. Subscribe for more.